Hey, Paul, happy Friday.
Thanks, Jeff. Happy Friday to you as well.
I've been thinking about performance improvement plans, or what we know
Hmm.
as PIPs, not to be confused with Gladys Knight and the PIPs. But
Oh, you're talking about the picture in picture from those TVs in the
no, no,
90s,
no, no, performance improvement plans,
but not the
not the
woohoo
woo woo.
tips.
Okay, so
So confused.
my question for you is, if you can get some clarity, is if an employee is surprised by a PIP, is the manager have already failed? Has the PIP already failed?
A failing Pip, a Pip who can't woohoo on time. Yeah, I that is let's make sure that we've got everyone up to speed here, right? So a performance improvement plan is typically something that a manager or an HR team will provide to an underperforming employee. And so the sense is that the underperforming employee is the problem. And I think your question is maybe the problem occurred before we even got to the PIP stage. Is that where you're going, big guy?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you are at the point of a PIP, and especially if the employee is surprised by it, then it seems like something else must have been wrong. Like you're not doing something right.
Yeah, like how about, dare I say, feedback, performance management, some sort of sense of ongoing meetings between the manager and his or her direct report. Absolutely. The fact that it would be a surprise that I would suddenly have to have this PIP presented to me, um, that almost doesn't make sense. That should be like the instead of a PIP at that point we should be, Paul. Let's sit down and talk about your performance and let's see if we can go through that. For all I know, or for all the situation may call for, with that feedback, I might go, oh, yeah, sure, Jeff. I will modify that. Can we meet in a couple weeks to see? Like, it might be one of those things that if you just told me, I can make that work. Have you ever had that situation in your experience?
Well, I mean, usually when you give good performance feedback in the moment and you're telling people along the way where they can improve or what where they're falling short, then that's the best opportunity for someone to prove themselves and to come back around, right? And so
Sure.
it when all this time has gone by and they think they're doing fine, and then you slap them with a PIP, then first of all, you've already reinforced all this bad behavior over time just
Mm.
because I thought I was doing great and now you're saying everything else was wrong. But also, it it can be extremely demotivating at that point. So what is my motivation at this point when I think I've been doing great or
Hmm.
okay, and
Hmm.
suddenly I'm getting this feedback I'm not, and not only that, it's this do or die, right? I have 30, 60, 90 days to turn things around, show that I can meet this standard. That is, first of all, it can't feel good, and secondly, the motivation is going to be really hard to come by at
Yes.
that
Yes.
point.
Jeff, there's even a ripple effect. I would throw a third bad outcome from that situation that you described, right? The outcome is, imagine that, there are coworkers around me. Oh my gosh, Paul is just a pain in the butt, or he's not doing this, or why does he get a pass? Why isn't Jeff? Wait a minute. Is that meeting that you put on my calendar for right after this recording, Jeff? Oh,
We, Paul, we have to talk. But
hmm.
anyway, as you were saying, your coworkers.
Right. So now, I think we've all heard this mindset that your culture is set by the weakest link. So here I am, if you will, the weakest link. And let's give me a break, right? To your point, if I'm not getting the feedback, I'm happily, merrily doing the wrong thing, whatever that wrong thing is. But my coworkers are going, what the heck? And now their motivation's dropping because they don't understand why I'm getting away with this crap. And if you're my boss, or if it's HR that's in charge of this process, whoever is, the root cause of this scenario, that's the real issue that we've got here. And, a PIP is a day late and a dollar short.
Yeah, and you really brought up a really good point is that PIPs often do not address the root cause, which is really they're just talking about this behavior is not right, but it doesn't really get at why it's not right. Where have you had good performance conversation? You would get at those things, right? So what's not right? It's a bad role fit, or the person's burnt out, or there's lack of training, there's lack of clarity, there's organizational barriers, there's or it's
Yeah.
just a bad manager, right? So
Right. Right.
so it, by the time it comes up, if those things haven't been discussed and addressed in the natural course of things, then the PIP isn't going to address that. It's not going to say you be less burnt out in the next 30 days because that's going to fix your performance problem, or get a better manager. That's not what PIP is ever going to address.
Right.
So it it it's rare that if it comes at the end of the journey, right, it's really going to address the root cause.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on, right? So, and maybe there's lots of instances in the business world where when there is a performance deficit, the immediate thought is that is the employee's fault, and it's either a capability issue or it's a motivation issue. And either way, it doesn't look good, right, for the employee. Like, Paul, you just apparently don't know how to do your job. So let's solve this problem by throwing you in a training course or an online training course. Or maybe we'll give you money to find your own training because we don't have any HR staff who can actually do any training work at this company. That's a dead end. That's not going to help. And it wasn't the root cause. The other possibility is, well, motivation. Now, training is not going to motivate me for much of anything, actually, but it's not going to motivate me to solve this particular problem, right? So the thought that it's like, oh, well, if I just tell you to jump higher, and so to your point, the third option is it's the opportunity. I might be a very capable employee or a very capable leader. I might be extremely motivated to do a great job. However, if now, let's say I'm middle management, and let's say we're running lean, and let's say there's a new priorities that get added to my plate, and of course, there's never any quote priorities that are subtracted from my plate. So where does that leave me? That leaves me struggling, and I'm trying to either do the most urgent things to the deficit of something else that maybe if you're my boss is really ticking you off. Or another possibility is I always go to the loudest, the squeaky wheel. So it's like, all right, looks like today I'm going to try to put that fire out because, that's the one that's loudest. Oh, and tomorrow I've got to jump over here. And you're writing me up for, gosh, Paul's not very strategic, or Paul keeps ignoring, motivation or coaching conversations with his team. Yeah, it's because I am a little bit busy. And so I completely agree with that, root cause issue. Why is that not a part of, certainly before we get to the PIP stage? But if we have to be at the PIP stage, let that be the first thing that we start talking about. What's the root cause? What's going on?
Yeah, what is going on with you? And again, another reason what I think PIPs, even though they feel like they're difficult conversations, I think the other reason I think that they often reflect, not always, but can reflect bad management is I think managers hide behind them. I think they are, I I haven't had the difficult conversation, or I don't know how to have the coaching conversation. So they then let things fester until this is where they resolve it, right? And they are hiding behind the pimp. So I think those are all reasons why pips are bad and why they fail. You did touch on a couple of things as to what can make a pip work. And I have seen success with pips. So I don't want to say that a performance improvement plan is always wrong.
It sounds like a commercial, Jeff. Success with Pip.
The success with Pip, with Zip. So, so a well-designed one. First of all, usually it's not a surprise, right? We are aware that there's issues somewhere along the way. But what are those issues? So first of all, you address two of them. One, it's clarity and not capability. So having
Mm.
really understanding what the performance expectations are. So I think it's here. You're telling me it's here. Oh, I wasn't aware like that. There's a gap. So sometimes the performance improvement plan is just an opportunity for me to realign those expectations and get clarity about what is expected of me. So that
Yeah, sorry, just to jump in there, a lot of times I hear that leaders don't like, as you said, they don't like to have a difficult conversation. And so they're vague. They're trying, Jeff, if I could get you to, be a little bit more blah, blah, blah. What the heck does that mean? And so one of the phrases I picked up from a colleague was clear is kind. To your point, let's give some clarity. Let's be really specific. That's not being mean. That's being kind.
yeah, I
What
love
else you
that
got?
clear claim. So the other is you were talking about skill versus will, right? Skill versus motivation. You cannot address the motivation problem with a PIP, but you can address skills, right? So if someone again is a gap, if someone is showing that they need to develop through coaching, training, mentoring, a capability in order to meet those standards, that the PIP is able to help ensure that they're not just, hey, go get that training, to your point, but it's protecting time and giving them the focus and the space they need to get that development. So the PIP
Right.
actually is protecting them to get the development they need to be successful. And so we are going to make this time for you to learn from Joe or to get coaching with Betty or to take this class so that you can meet these standards.
Yeah, and going back to that systems, right? You were saying, "Gosh, uh, has the system failed this poor employee?" Imagine if the system rewards. Again, I'm making you my boss. Sorry, I just can't say that with a straight face. Oh, oh, um, let's say that the system were to reward you for you developing your team. So now, gosh, I think Paul has this particular, again, deficit. I see a gap, but let me get Paul the resources. Let me get Paul some peers that he can be learning from. All of that now makes you look good when I look good. But a lot of systems and a lot of organizations, they don't operate that way. And as you suggested, keeping that sort of under your bottleneck almost. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a strange low. Uh, let's just deal him. Let's just work him right out of the organization. And of course, could be, maybe it wouldn't be so horrible. The Friday 15 might work a lot smoother without me, I suppose. I,
I
I,
disagree. I disagree. I would miss you.
so, so,
So
so we're not
anyway,
going to have a PIP conversation about my, never mind.
no, but I was just saying fairness. So it's fair, right? To that point,
Yeah.
and improvement is truly possible, right? That you are not setting someone up for failure, and that and as a manager, you're committed and invested in that person's success,
Yes.
not
Yes.
passively like, so here's your document. Good luck to you. See you in 6 weeks, and then we'll show you the door, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, so
Yeah. I love what you're saying. Just because right now a performance improvement plan has this connotation that you've got like one foot in the grave now, buddy, and so it'll take a miracle at this point. And yeah, that's just horrible in and of itself.
right, and at that point, if it's really the case, the person not motivated, they're not qualified, they're not right. then kindness is also sometimes saying that conversation, listen, this is not going to work out. It is not time for a pep. It is time for an honest conversation to say, I think we're unhappy, you're unhappy. I think this is time to separate. How can we help you in the separation, right? So that another conversation.
You you and your wisdom has caused our gong intern to declare the end of our Friday 15 on for today. So I have nothing to add, Jeff. Your performance is outstanding as always.
Well, I appreciate that, and we'll discuss your performance shortly.
Right?
And Gong intern may be getting a promotion. All right, we'll be talking next week. Take care,
Oh,
everyone.
wait a minute.